JC Penny. We still haven't come up with a better name, but the pod is back. 3 episodes in 14 weeks. Well, I guess 13 weeks technically so far is probably a not a good clip, and certainly not as good as last year. We do have the Rubester, who is making a rare appearance on the pod. My little girl. She was scared of the fire alarm, which I had to change the smoke detector. So, hiding under the desk like a little chicken she is. But you don't care about Ruby, which makes you assholes. But you care about whether or not you're going to make the playoffs or get one of those tasty buys. And I can tell you, I have gone through and figured out the chances that everyone has to make the playoffs, the chances everyone has to get that sweet first round bye, and what needs to happen. So without further ado, and to be fair, you'll notice I made one mistake that I'll kind of clarify with the kind of the early goers, but I don't want to spoil anything. But I'll correct that, and we'll make sure that everything is accurate for you guys. So, most importantly, if any of the guys in the league are watching, if you're watching the stream, comment in the chat. I've got it up. I'll comment your comments out for the world to hear. If you want to talk about, if you're Jason Smith or Jerry, you want to talk about, how unlucky you've gotten, I'm here to listen as your therapist tonight. If you are Daryl or James or Window and want to talk about how fortunate you are to be actually playing for a non-wild card spot this week, you can talk about it. I'll let you gloat. And if you're Alex, you can go fuck yourself for being the number 1 seed. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What needs to happen for you to make the playoffs? Well, okay. So, what has to happen for your team to make the playoffs? Well, let's start. I've broken this down into what I feel are 3 distinct groups of teams. So we'll start at the top with...
Long time. I've been planning this bachelor party for 10 years.
But I met Amy 8 years ago.
What does she have to do with this? JK, I'm happy for you both. No. Tonight is about creating a bond that will last forever. Tonight is about the Batch Boys.
Well, we can brainstorm the name later.
No, kids, I already made fanny packs.
Ah, well, that settles that.
This clearly says Bach Boys.
No, it's Batch. Like the beginning of Bachelor. I've been working on this for 10 years. Don't ruin it!
Okay, so let's fanny up, Batch Boys, because it's time to party.
Woo, woo!
Yes. Whoop, whoop, Raymond and the Gangle. Let's go.
Now I'm muted. How long have I been muted? Okay, we're going to go back. Wow. You take 10 weeks off from doing a podcast and you do it terribly. So, I muted it to make sure that my audio wasn't making some feedback. Whatever. It's the Bye Boys. That's what this first group of teams is. Sorry if I was on mute. So, I've already made fanny packs for the Bye Boys. But these are the guys who are either already locked into or are fighting for a first round bye. As you saw from the slide, which I was miming earlier, Alex, 9-4, one of the 2 teams above 1,500 points. He is the number 1 seed currently. He is second in scoring. I didn't put all the permutations in this slide because it's just not realistic in my view that there's any way that he doesn't get a first round bye. If you look at the standings, and I'll make them zoomed in so they're not standings for ants. Alex is 9-4. Is it possible that he could lose this week? McMillan and Zach could both win. They could catch him. Sure. If both of them outscore him by, in Jason's case, about 90 points. In Zach's case, about, 130 some? So, yeah, realistically, there is no way that Alex doesn't get a first round bye. He's locked it up. He can go fuck himself. Now we move on to the 3 guys who are competing for, in my view, the second round bye. Or the second first round bye. And the inside track goes to McMillan. He is the odds-on favorite right now, if you had to guess, because he's in the driver's seat. He's 4th in scoring, decent clip at over 1,400 points so far. He's 8-5. And all 3 of the guys I'm about to talk about are guaranteed to make the playoffs. They're locked in. None of these guys can finish below 4th place. All McMillan has to do to get a first round bye is beat Jason Smith, and either I win, in which case he would win on record, he would get the bye on record, or if both he and Zach win, they will both be 9-5. But as long as Zach doesn't outscore McMillan by 33.88, McMillan gets the the first round bye. So right now McMillan's the odds-on favorite. Same logic applies to Zach. He is actually 7th in scoring, but there is just a giant cluster of scoring in that pocket from like the 2 spot down to really, I'd say 8th, if my memory serves. But Zach is currently the number 3 seed with his 8-5 record. Again, like McMillan and the next person, he cannot finish below 4th place. All he has to do to lock up a first round bye is, again, beat me and outscore McMillan by 33.88. And to be clear, all these numbers are literally on the tie. I have no idea what would happen if 2 teams tied in record and tied in the points scored. I don't know if it'll do a coin flip or what, or how he would decide that. That would be insane. But whatever the case may be, that's the margin. The last team is, of course, yours truly. While I am 1 win below McMillan and Zach, I do have the benefit of being the number 1 point scorer in the league right now. I am, again, Alex and I are both over the 1,500 mark, and we're well clear of the pack. So even though I'm the number 4 seed currently, and again, realistically, even though Window, James, and Daryl are all 1 win behind me and in theory could meet me on wins, there's, again, I'll pull up the total points scored just to show this effect. There's really no way that with points scored, if we're talking about the 3 teams, Window, Window, James, and Daryl, the margin for Window is 130, and that's, it's like almost 200 for James, and it's over 200 for Daryl. So again, realistically, there's no way that I'm getting kicked out of the playoffs, I think. If I do, I'll be very impressed and very maybe angrier than I was when I lost the finals last year on Baker Mayfield's stupid play action pass. So that brings us to my chances of the first round bye. If I beat Zach, I've got that bye as long as McMillan loses to Jason Smith. Because if McMillan loses and I win, we're all going to be 8-6. Zach, McMillan, and myself. And unless McMillan outscores me by 89.74, none of them can beat me on points. So it really is kind of up in the air as to who will win the second bye spot, and it really just depends on my matchup with Zach and Jason Smith's matchup with McMillan. So let's go to the next kind of grouping of 3, which is the quest for the 500 record 5th seed. These 3 guys all have the opportunity to be 500, and in doing so, get to the playoffs. And in order to get to the playoffs, you need 7 wins. You need to be 500. So starting with, again, the inside track, it has to go to Window. He is the 5 seed right now. He is 8th in scoring, 1,384 points. He's still in that pack. James and Daryl are both like a significant drop off below. Window will make the playoffs as the number 5 seed as long as he beats Alex and either one of these 2 things happens. James wins and doesn't outscore him by 66.12, or Daryl wins and doesn't outscore Window by 84.92. So you can see how if Window wins, he's almost certainly, crazy things can happen. 60, absolutely, we've had, margins of 60 points in a week. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But certainly, Window is I think a substantial favorite as long as he wins. But if he doesn't, he is not getting in the playoffs. And the reason why is because James and Daryl are playing each other. And one of them has to finish, unless they tie, which would be kind of crazy. And even then, I think they still go through. But one of them has to finish with, actually, I guess, Yeah, they would tie. They'd have a better win percentage. They'd still get through. So Window loses and he is out. That brings us to James. It's real simple, James. You're the 6th seed right now. You're 9th in scoring. You are in that bottom 2 of scoring that you realistically are not in the wild card conversation as I see it. So you just need to beat Daryl and hope Alex beats Window. That will lock up your playoff spot. And Daryl is in the same boat, essentially. Number 7 seed, 10th in scoring, the only person below that 1,300 mark by a sliver. But he and James are kind of in the same boat for all of this. He needs to beat James, and he needs Alex to beat Window. If that happens, he makes the playoffs. So those 3 are really in that hunt for the 5 seed. And then you get a really interesting group next. My favorite group of the bunch. And of course, I've got a video clip as well.
Wait, sorry. No, I'm saying, no, brakes! Guys, why aren't the brakes working?
Because I cut the brakes! Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
What? Holy shit!
Oh, God!
Oh, my God! Brakes, guys, I can't stop this fast! Aboard! Aboard!
What? Go!
I muted myself again, but this time I caught it. Who doesn't love Always Sunny? It's the wild card, bitches. Yeehaw! So we've got, in my view, 4 teams that realistically could get the wild card, and they have different degrees of probability. We'll start with, again, the favorite right now, who is Jerry. Now but the wild card, to be clear, while Jerry is the favorite, it is wide open for these guys. But Jerry certainly has the inside track. He is the 8th seed right now, but he is 3rd in overall points scored. Again, part of that pack between the 3 spot and the 8 spot of, like, there's kind of a cluster. What is it? It's like, just pulling it up now, 1420 to 1380. So we're talking about a 40-point margin, really. 42, if you want to get technical. Between the 3rd place and 8th place. And Jerry will make the playoffs as long as the 3 other competitors for the wild card don't outscore him by the margins they would need to overtake him. For Jason Smith, the margin is 28.16. For Brad, it's 32.68. And Window, it's 41.98. These are all in the realm of possibility, by the way. All of these guys, any one of these guys, if they have a monster week this week, could absolutely walk into the wild card. And so it's the same kind of principles for Jason Smith, who again is 5-8. All these guys are 5-8. The Jerry, Jason Smith, and the next person. 9th seed, 5 in scoring, makes the playoffs as long as he can outscore Jerry by that 28.16 margin. He also needs to Brad not to outscore him by 4.52, and he needs Window not to outscore him by 13.82. Then you go to Brad, who, again, these are going to be a lot of the same numbers, but Brad is right now in last place in the league. Sucks to suck. But this time last year, Brad, I was talking about how your chance to make the playoff would be if health froze over. And you actually have a chance now. You just need to outscore Jerry by 32.68. You need to outscore Jason Smith by 4.52. And Window can't outscore you by 9.3. And so now you have all the numbers, because even if this is assuming, by the way, for Window, this is assuming Window loses. Again, if Window wins this week, if he dominates, who does he play? That's embarrassing. He plays Alex. If Window beats Alex this week, he's in as the 5 seed realistically, and I mean, unless, like I said, unless Daryl or James have a day. If Window gets in as the 5 seed, obviously he's not in the wild card conversation, and so it opens the door between Jerry, Jason Smith, and Brad, who will be that 6 seed. But for Window, if he loses to Alex, he still can get a playoff spot as long as he outscores Jerry by 41.98, Jason Smith by 13.82, and Brad by 9.3. So that's really the kind of the outlook for the what you need to get into the playoffs. This might be the first time I can remember in league history, truly the first time in league history, where I think everybody's in it. I really do feel like every single team has an opportunity this week to make the playoffs. I don't think anyone's really out of the running, which is awesome because I can't remember. We might have had a season like this, ever since the wild card, it's always been a possibility that anyone can make the playoffs. But usually you've got one or two teams that, like, there's no way they're catching up on points scored. This year, everybody's in it for different reasons. The guys who wouldn't be in the wild card conversation are in the standings conversation. And that, I know that we've talked about whether that's lucky or not, but, like, it's good for parity, if nothing else, that everyone's competitive going into the last week of the season. No one's kind of phoning it in. Brad's not starting Kyler Murray, but no one's phoning it in. No one's, giving up on the year, which is good for the league. So, yeah, let's get into the preview of the matchups. And again, I'm doing this by myself this week. That's okay. But it does create kind of a lack of banter. So I apologize that my takes are, if they are one-sided. So first things first, we're looking at my matchup against Zach. And this is really, like I said, if McMillan loses, this is the battle of the bye. I think this is really a coin flip. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts both have, monster top, either of them could be the top scoring quarterback in fantasy. Running back core, it's really interesting. I think I had the edge just because of Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook's been disappointing this year, as has Ezekiel Elliott. I'm actually curious now. Zeke's kind of stats lately have been better, right? Like I thought so. He's averaging. I guess you can't see this. Let me see if I can't bring it down. It's not gonna work. Well, for what it's worth, Zeke is averaging over 15 points each of the last 5 weeks, and compared to Dalvin Cook has been averaging. I mean, he has gotten 15 points in two of the last 5 weeks. So Dalvin Cook's had some big booming performances. He's had a 25, a 22, a 22, and a couple, and several multiple double-digit performances. But Zeke has kind of been on a hot streak lately. The Cowboys with Dak back are really running the ball more effectively, which makes sense. So it's kind of a wash. James Cook is a very interesting player in this matchup. James Cook I had at the start of the year. I drafted, was really big on him, really big. And he never really got the starting job. But last week he was the back in Buffalo with the most carries. And it would just crush me if Zach got the bye over me based on picking up James Cook after his first, I wouldn't say big week, but his first significant week at 13.5 points last week. The receivers are where Zach and I have made our money this year. He's got Jamar Chase, who is now fully back from injury. Brandon Cook's currently questionable, but I assume he'll play. Devontae Smith, second fiddle to A.J. Brown, but certainly, is going to offset some of Hurts' value. And Amari Cooper, who has been quietly, I think, like a wide receiver too, and has had a couple big weeks here or there. I've got CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf. I'm starting Zay Jones at the flex right now. He is questionable. Part of the reason I'm doing that, my waiver wire pickup of the year in Christian Watson is on bye. I might start Leonard Fournette, but the more and more I see him, the more and more it looks like he's kind of losing. I mean, he was the back in Tampa with the most carries, but I just don't know that I can trust him as much anymore, which is a shame. But nature of the Tampa Bay offense. The only other guy I consider starting aside from Fournette at that flex spot instead of Zay Jones, or Fournette could start in place of Mostert and Jones. The only other guy I'd consider starting is probably Michael Gallup, but that's an outside chance. It's a coin flip. If you want me to make a prediction, I'll predict myself and give Zach the bye, but it really is a coin flip in this one. Moving on to the battle of the battle for the 5th seed, because again, if Window loses to Alex, and Alex is the number 1 seed and is second in points scored this year, if Window loses, this matchup determines who gets the 5 seed. With that being the case, right now the projections I'm sure aren't accurate because Cortland Sutton, and I can go to the other way of looking at this, but I'm fairly confident that Cortland Sutton isn't projected anything because he's doubtful to play. So yeah, so he is not. So I'm gonna go back to the previous way I had it, but I have confirmed that Cortland Sutton, his projection is off because of that. So let's take a look at Daryl's lineup right now and see where he would, or what he would do to replace Cortland Sutton. I mean, Daryl has been hit so hard by the injury bug. McCaffrey's questionable. I assume he'll play because they're trying to lock up a playoff spot in San Francisco. Deontay Foreman questionable. I think he'll play. Rondale Moore, Corey Davis, all these guys questionable. J.K. Dobbins still in the IR. If I were him, he's got a lot of guys on bye too. Ooh, Aaron Jones, Jeff Wilson's available, okay. But Aaron Jones, Justin Fields on bye, which means he's starting Geno Smith. Daryl's just in a bad way this week, and he in a week he needs a win in the worst way. But I wouldn't necessarily sleep on him just because Jeff Wilson Jr., Deshaun Watson, in my view, offer some sneaky upside. Deshaun Watson obviously laid an egg in his first game back, but you get, since he is going to, I think, win that game, I think Cleveland will play from behind. I think it'll force them to throw the ball a little more. Could create turnover risk, but also could create opportunities for Deshaun Watson to move the ball with his legs. And again, he's got a little depth there, but Jeff Wilson was getting some carries in Miami when he came to the team, and Van Jefferson, someone's got to catch the ball for the Rams. Certainly not Allen Robinson, who's been a massive disappointment. But I mean, on paper, I think it's clear that this is James's matchup to lose. With that said, I'm gonna predict Daryl, just because it would be some sort of poetic injustice, which in fantasy is the poetic justice of the world, that it's not, what is not fair can happen. Wouldn't it be fitting if our the lowest point scored made the playoffs? Absolutely. And that helps all of our chances, hopefully. But then again, let me actually pull up one thing before I move to the next matchup. We've got the everyone played everyone chart, and to be clear, Daryl's winning in that over. I'll move back a little bit. Daryl's winning this overall matchup chart over James very barely. It's 49-68 versus 44-73. But just saying, like, I gotta have some argument for it. So I'm gonna go Daryl just for the fun of it, and also because fuck James, right? Not I love you, buddy, but you did fuck me in back-to-back championships. So go Daryl. Because I cannot lose in a final to James again. I might kill myself. Moving on. We've got Jason Smith and Jason McMillan. The Battle of Jasons for McMillan, a win and you get the bye week. Interestingly, I don't know how accurate these projections are right now. They may be accurate. I'm not sure. I probably should look. Me doing my job. All projections are accurate. Okay. So with that knowledge, Jason Smith is the odds-on favorite. The other thing to note here, and I think, again, one of the interesting things about this chart, and you can't really see it. Let me see if I can't expand it a little bit. No, I can't. Well, one of the interesting things about this chart is you can see kind of who's been hotter in the last, and actually I guess I can minimize it a little bit so you can see at least the weeks 1 through 13. One of the benefits of this chart is you can see who's been hot lately versus who's been cold lately. And what I find interesting about this particular chart, Jason Smith over the last 5 weeks has been outscoring the league. It was 6-3, 6-3, 7-2, 7-2, and 8-1 performances. Meanwhile, McMillan, although he outscored the league in week 9, week 10 he was 4-5 versus the league. He was the lowest scorer in week 11, the second lowest scorer in week 12, and even in week 13 he only outscored 3 teams out of the remaining 9. So I think what's one of the benefits of that chart is it gives you an opportunity to see who's trending in a positive direction and who's not. And I don't just say that because I have been 9-0 or 8-1 against the league in the last 4 weeks. So back to the matter at hand. I'm going Jason Smith. Tua has an opportunity for, granted, it's another West Coast game for the Dolphins, but Tua has an opportunity for a rebound game here. I just said at the start of the season how much I liked Jason Smith's roster, and it hasn't really changed. I do think, Waddle being on McMillan will offset that value slightly. But then, and I don't know. There's a lot of guys on McMillan's starting roster, and he's got a little depth, but they're all injured. Lamar Jackson being out is a major loss. I think this is a coin flip if Lamar Jackson were healthy, and he's still questionable right now, but I get the sense he's not going to play. Najee's been disappointing. AJ Brown's a monster, but and Joe Mixon when healthy is too. But I'm just gonna go Jason Smith and hope that I can get a first round bye. I'm picking the picks that I want to win. I guess that's probably a bad idea. Moving on, Alex versus Window. This is Window. Don't screw this up, and you get the playoffs. Alex was looking like an absolute super stud before last week. I thought he was going to walk away with not only the first round bye, but the number 1 overall seed, which all he needed to do was win. Then he was the lowest scorer in the league last week. And so not really a confidence booster going into the playoffs. He's been overall strong since about week 5 probably. He's outscored the leagues every week since week 5 except for I think 2 or 3. But ultimately again, there's just so many injury question marks with all these guys. The one thing I'll say is Alex has some significant players on bye. Alvin Kamara, Pittman probably wouldn't play, but some of his depth players like AJ Dillon, Chase Claypool, Brian Robinson are all on bye. I think this will be close. I'm going to go Window. I really do think Window has some decent matchups. Justin Herbert going against Miami secondary. Miami secondary has been terrible. Then again, Mahomes against Denver's tasty. Man, this is a tough one. Justin Jefferson playing against Detroit. Detroit's not a bad team, but Justin Jefferson's a superstar stud. And also Stephon Diggs, although he's a great player, the Jets' pass defense is actually fairly decent. Same with San Francisco's pass defense, and Chris Godwin is up against them. Give me Window. And last but not least, we've got the battle of who gives a shit, because in reality, this is all about just scoring the most points possible. Jason Smith, don't hate your team. You're the only person watching the pod, so please don't hate your team. I don't hate your team. I hope you win. But this, again, is the battle of who gives a shit, because really the result does not matter at all. I mean, I guess it does in the sense that, like, they both want to be outscoring the other person to ensure that that person can't pass them for the wild card. But really, this is just about throwing up as many points as you can before the wild card tally runs final. I am guessing that Brad is not going to start this lineup because Alan Lazard, Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor, all on bye. That is a tough loss to lose Jonathan Taylor Thomas to the bye week. He does have some depth on his bench. Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Josh Jacobs, Kyler Murray, all on his bench. I imagine they'll all start. And so with that lineup, it would be Kyler, Saquon, Tony Pollard, probably Juju, Mike Evans, and Mike Williams, or Josh. Actually, I'm sorry, Josh Jacobs will almost certainly start in the flex, so I'll probably only start 2 receivers between Juju. No, a 3 wide receiver league. I'm an idiot. Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Juju, and Saquon, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Kyler at QB. That's not a bad lineup. And it doesn't help Jerry's case that, I mean, Huntley's going to start it in Baltimore. How did he do this week? 15, but he came in relief. Zonovan Knight, probably the only running back healthy in New York right now. I mean, I know Michael Carter. I think they think he's coming back this week, but I think Zonovan Knight's the guy right now with all their running back injuries. Tyreek's a stud. Cowboys against Houston might be I mean, it's 49ers against Tampa Bay, which is a good. I mean, the Bucs haven't been what they used to be on offense even a year or two ago. But the Cowboys D, one of the best defenses in the league, against the worst offense in the league in Houston, the tank of dreams they're running down there. That could be a big factor here in terms of giving Jerry a boost to stay ahead in the wild card hunt. I'm going to go Jerry. I do think Brad can pull this out, assuming he sets his lineup. I really think he has the players to get a win here. Because Josh Jacobs, I think, could absolutely have a monster game, but so could Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to give the nod to Jerry. Brad, set your lineup, and let's see where this all falls. So that's it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the pod. I hope you get to the Jason Smith special shout out. Thank you for watching it live and being in the chat and commenting those 3 lines about not being able to hear, then being able to hear, then hating your team. I love feedback. For the rest of you, I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed. But I hope you do, in all seriousness, watch this at home this week before the playoffs, just to have an idea of what you need to happen to make the playoffs. I hope you watch your games this week so you can see whether your team makes playoffs or not. Like I said, this is a really exciting time where we're all still in it. So let's see some banter. Let's see some posts in the Facebook group. Let's see some, we were bad this year. In full disclosure, I was bad. I didn't do the podcast as much as I would have liked to. Work got a little busy. And just life got a little busy. But between that and, we haven't, I've been bad about enforcing league events and this year, and we didn't do a New York League event. I think I still owe James a call back, by the way, so I'm going to call you back soon, James. But we definitely need to do something. If nothing else, maybe watch a playoff week together, just to get, end the season on a high note, and, maybe get ready for next year. So, best of luck to all of you. I genuinely hope this week is exciting as I want it to be. Hope you enjoyed the pod, and I will see you all after this week, and we'll see who are the 6 teams left standing. All right. Take care, guys.